Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is the Ambler Keenan Mitchell Johnson webinar regarding cyber issues. And we're excited today to have Scott Oleson with us. Scott is, well, as we just kind of said, he's with analytics, who are our IT guys, I should say IT people, so that I'm not being gender specific, but they do a great job. And Scott actually did a class for we do an annual 2-day seminar for CPAs for them to get their continuing education credit, and he did a class for them as well. So we thought we should pass that information along to all of you. We'll do some quick introductions of us, and then we'll turn it over to Scott. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Beth Mitchell, and been with the firm for 20 some years. And, you know, we all practice in the area of estate planning, probate, and trust administration, as all of you probably know. So we're so glad that you all joined us this morning. Ilya, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks, Beth. My name is Ilya, and I've been with the firm for just I think a little over 6 months now, but it feels like I've been here for years. I feel like I fit in pretty well, and love it here. And I know our IT gurus have helped us out a lot, and hopefully they can, Scott can give you guys some pointers that will be really useful today.
At least he said, you know, it's been good. When he
Right.
said it felt like years, I thought, oh no.
6 months with us is like an eternity.
It felt like an eternity. Yes.
Congratulations, you've done it. And welcome. And I'm Erica Johnson, one of the partners at the firm. I've been at the firm 18 years, and we welcome you all. We're excited to learn some things, and glad you guys are participating, and that it's a little rainy outside, so you weren't tempted to go out and just enjoy the sun. But we'll get you out there. We'll be done about, I think, probably 10 or so. I'm not sure. Scott, you planning on about that?
I think my presentation lasts about 35 minutes, and then
even less. Then we'll do questions.
whatever questions after that.
Awesome. Great. All right. And Miss Katrina.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katrina. I just joined the firm in January as the new client relations marketing coordinator, and I've also loved it so far. And I'm the one that has been emailing you about these webinars. So yeah, I hope to see you at some future events.
And Zeus the cat, I just saw try to get
yes.
Miss Beth.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you again all for attending. I'm going to turn it over to Scott. I believe that Katrina is going to make our pictures disappear so that you only see Scott for the rest of this, but we are still here. Put questions in the chat, and then Scott's going to do questions at the end. So just so that you know, he will get to those. So if you do have questions, put them in the chat. All right, thank you. I'll turn it over to Scott.
All right. Good morning, everybody. As Erica and Elizabeth have said, my name is Scott Oleson. I am CEO for Analytics Computers. I'm one of 3 owners of the company. We are a IT firm that's on South Broadway in Denver here. We specialize in security as well as systems management. I do have consultants that go out and actually work with large customers as well and completely guide technology in those companies. So that's what we do. A little bit about me, though, is I've been in IT for over 25 years. As Ilya would tell you, I have an accent. I have an English accent when I speak Russian, but I've been to Ukraine a number of times. My wife is Ukrainian. So some of the things you're going to hear me say, and I'm going to joke and laugh about, but Ukraine, Russia, North Korea, Tangier, some of these places you're going to hear me talk about, they are the centers of hack. And what I want to get past you today is, first of all, it's not the systems and things that we put in place to stop the hacking to go on, but frankly, it's you, your staff, the people around you that are working and getting email, those kinds of things. You are the front line of defense for everything that happens here. So with that said, I'm just going to click through a couple pages here. Hopefully it doesn't animate too much on me. So I've entitled this, what every business owner needs to know, or about cybersecurity awareness training. What I would tell you is that we need to continually, constantly, every day, every minute, make sure that we're aware of, thinking about, talking about things that we're getting in emails and seeing on the news and that kind of stuff, just so that we become hyper aware of everything that's going on. But a little bit of history for us all. You can see the nice little COVID icon up in the upper left-hand side of the screen. This didn't start with COVID, so hacking has been going on for many, many years. But what we've noticed is since COVID, things have happened that have changed our society and our world probably forever. First of all, we've sent our staff home, and that's probably a good thing, because if you've got younger staff in your organizations, obviously they're demanding to be able to work from home, as well as we can let them work from home. Technology is there that, you know, we can connect to systems, whether it be out in the cloud or sitting in office spaces, that kind of stuff, and we can do it securely so that staff really don't have to worry about, you know, sitting having their seat in a pair of pants and in a chair in your office space. Some of the things we've done is we went ahead and surveyed IT leaders, CIOs, CTOs, that kind of stuff, to say, okay, well, were you guys prepared to send everybody home? And what you're going to see here is overall the answer is no, we weren't prepared. You know, so the readiness score that you see at the top, 73% said, yeah, we were. But then you can see they didn't provide cybersecurity training. They didn't talk about online privacy with their staff and have tools for them at home. They didn't provide any training or anything work-related devices to people as they went home. And many of those systems didn't have antivirus, anti-spyware, phishing pieces on them, that all those kinds of things. And then they didn't even tell employees, hey, you're using your own computer at home, Erica, please put some antivirus on it, and realize that Comcast router or that CenturyLink router you have sitting at home is not anywhere near being a firewall that's going to keep you safe. So we probably needed to have a separate firewall device or software placed on PCs. So you can see, yes, they said we were ready, but in reality, no, we weren't. So more history about this. Were challenges with when we sent people home. The biggest thing is it's more difficult to get a hold of guys like me or my team and say, what is this that I'm getting? You know, I can't get on my computer, or I got this email, can you come look at it? And lo and behold, people start emailing us, hey, is this email nefarious? Is it trying to hack me? And 99% of the time, we tell our customers, well, let's delete it and let me log on your system and I'll open it there. Because please don't email somebody an email and say, is this a hacking email? Because it really, if you have a question about it, one of the things I want to encourage you to do is delete that email and make a phone call to the person who sent it. There's nothing like a telephone call and talking to somebody online rather than talking to somebody via email. But we also know is we didn't train our people when we sent them home. Again, we have personal devices that are being used. In some instances, we needed those personal devices because it's difficult to say, okay, well, let's take that desktop computer home and put it on a kitchen table or on another desk. This remote model, you know, how do we communicate with people back and forth when, you know, people are sitting all over the nation and sometimes all over the world trying to do work for a company. And again, I said, you know, people have a hard time reaching us as IT guys, or, you know, and I use the word to Erica, you know, we are the guys. I don't think that's a sexist thing at all, but all my staff is male. So anyway, you know, it's hard to reach us, hard to get in touch with us, especially if it's remote. And then we can't, you know, you can't walk down the hall and grab us and say, hey, you know, what's this like? So it makes that communication more difficult. And then, you know, did we have the right tools? Did we look at staff, you know, Comcast router settings? Did we do all of that? I can tell you, no, it wasn't done. And then, of course, we all know that when we push people home, we end up with people like my billing lady, who I can log on at 10 o'clock at night when it's invoicing time and see her doing invoices. And it's like, well, stop, please. Let's do work during work time and enjoy yourself outside of that work. So we lose that balance. Other things, we said, are we aware of cybersecurity practices and things, and are we communicating to those to our staff? The 47% at the top that they said they were very aware. We're talking about companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield and Anthem Blue Cross and Ford Motor Company and Amazon. These people and these companies can afford to train the people that they need working from home and working remotely all the time. What's not part of that 47% there is typically small businesses. So hopefully I'm going to scare you here in a while, because I'm going to tell you that you need to be part of that 47%, and that hopefully we can get that 47% up into the 90s eventually. So, people weren't aware that cybersecurity was even a priority. Wow, I got to be thinking about this at home. I'm secure at home, right? Again, mindful of those things and being aware of what's going on in our houses, as well as what's going on in our office spaces. And again, like I said, people feel comfortable at home. And so they're not going to question the reason for that nefarious email that came through as much as they would when they're sitting at their desk in their office. So, more concerns. IT doesn't become as effective when we're at home. Again, I said, you can't walk down and talk to us. It becomes more difficult to onboard, offboard people. How do we get people in and out of the offices? All of these kinds of things. Just things to consider. Even we heard about the WebEx and Zoom meetings that were going on, and schools using those when COVID hit, and finding out the people were logging into those things and doing things so that our students could see things that I'm sure I would never want my daughter seeing. But those kinds of things happening, how do we do all of this? How do we collaborate when we're dispersed all over the place? And, how do we have the right protections in places for cybersecurity? So again, I'm not going to read all of that to you, and I will share the deck afterwards too, if Erica and Liz wanted to go out to everybody. So impact, and then this is some old news, but also new news. In 2019, what we can see is we had some growth in crime, whether over the internet and intrusion into our networks. In 2019, we had total for the year under 500,000 complaints, and somewhere around $3.5 billion were lost in defending against this, as well as recovering from cyber events and cyber crimes. In 2020, we're getting almost 1 million complaints a day. So obviously we're into 2021 right now. We're not tracking that number yet, and it's averaging. My last reading was it's averaging up, but that's the 1 million was towards the end of 2020, and we're expecting to lose somewhere around $6 trillion this year, just in cybercrime events and stuff that's going on out there. Other impacts to your business, if you're hacked, is your business reputation. I've seen PEOs and benefits organizations go out of business overnight because they were hacked. We lose employees because it's happened. A lot of times what you'll find is we're actually going to fire that employee that allowed that event to come in, because it may have been that they were getting an email that says, Great Aunt Susie was sending me a picture from Tijuana, and I'd love to see that picture of Great Aunt Susie in Tijuana. Doesn't matter that Great Aunt Susie is sitting at her home here in Denver. Some of our vendors are going to leave us. Again, they don't want to be hacked, so why are they going to continue to do business with us? We're going to do devaluation of our trade names, devaluation of our businesses, and it makes it more difficult to sell that business. So again, reasons to be concerned about what's going on cybersecurity wise and everything that's happening out there. This last little graphic kind of gives you an idea. Financial industry in 2017, they about 7.1% churn rate, which means those people lost customers. In 2021, it's going to be expected to be 20 to 30 times that in 2017. So if I multiply 7.1 times 30, we can quickly see that likely financial companies that have a breach are going to lose most, or if not all, of their customers. So you can see kind of, and I'll go back here a little one step just so you can see the graphic again. But notice some of the areas, technology areas where I live, and again, if we're looking at 30 times 5.1%, if I had a breach here in my office, I can guarantee you that I'm breaching about almost 375 customers' data at that point. So you can guess that we have taken some extreme cautions and extreme measures to make sure that our systems are hardened, as well as we utilize things called multi-factor authentication to get into any system that we utilize. So again, we don't want to lose customers. That's obvious. So the truth, according to Symantec, 92.4% of your malware is now delivered by email. Again, it's not the system, it's not the firewall, it's not the antivirus on the computer, it's the person using the computer. Most of this comes from lack of staff knowledge. We're not training our staff, and I'm going to show you a graphic here in a second and give you some information about what our states are doing to make sure that we are starting to think about this kind of stuff. 30% or 33% of our companies are firing employees. You know, we're letting people go because that breach happened and they caused that breach, or they were a part of that breach. That could mean that that person actually took a USB drive and stuck it into a computer and took data home, and or they breached it using their telephone, that kind of stuff. It could mean that they just breached it via email. But we all know that employees are expensive. It costs us to get them hired. It costs them, you know, all of the benefits and stuff we pay in the background, so all of that kind of stuff. So kind of a big loss to us. So what I'm going to tell you, and please make sure that you and your staff, every time you get an email, you must be correct. Is that email nefarious, or is it a good email? And I said every time, but realize what we call a threat actor or a criminal, they don't have to be right once. And so these guys are sending out millions of emails a day. If they're right 1% of the time and they get through, you can see the problem that's happening. So roughly on a daily basis, we're having 4,500 data breaches. In 2021, tech jury is saying that's going to be close to 1.7 million breaches by the end of the year. Small businesses are targeted. I can't talk. Are targeted most, and it's because we're easy, guys. It's like us having our car open, windows open, big huge neon sign over the top of our car, billions of dollars sitting inside of our car in Christmas in the parking lot saying, "Come take my money." That's what a small business looks like to a cyber criminal. Again, 30% of this data breaches involve internal threat actors. What do I mean by internal? Well, that's your employees. But also follow it through. That could be your cleaning staff. Maybe that cleaning person has a son or a daughter that is your next hacker wannabe. And so they get on the internet and they stumble across something called Hack5, which is where companies like myself buy hacking tools. These tools are not expensive. Some of them are less than $50. There's a USB stick out there that happens to be this way. And if I stick it in your computer and you click on the file, it brings up a picture of Elvis dancing on your screen singing Hound Dog, and it won't let you get out of it until you call Analytics Computers. However, that can be quickly reprogrammed to track and follow all of the clicks of your mouse and the pushes of buttons on your computer, and it can store it. It can send it out to the internet to a site, that kind of stuff. So less than $50, this hacker wannabe gets it, comes with mom or dad to the office to clean at night, sticks that in the back of Erica's computer. Erica has no clue because she doesn't crawl around on the ground to go see what's on the back of her computer. And a couple of days later, comes back with mom or dad, pulls the USB drive out, has all of Erica's passwords, all of her information where she goes on the internet, the systems she interacts with, takes that home and starts doing whatever they want to with that information. So this is what I'm talking about, internal. So be thinking not just your staff, but who else touches your office and comes into your office. And again, cybercrime damage is expected by 2025 to be $10.5 trillion. I'd love to have a fraction of that in my bank account. I don't know about you guys, you probably would too. Other statistics, ransomware payments now are roughly $111,000 per instance. I know of people that have gotten by less than that, and I know of companies that have gotten by for significantly more than that. When I say significant, I'm talking 7 to 10 times that cost. Internet of Things devices. So think of your phone, your iPad, your Android tablet, your thermometer, the thermostats is connected to the internet, the cameras that are connected to the internet, even your refrigerator at home, if it has an internet connection, which some of them do. These things are being attacked more and more and more. Why? Because they're easy. The one that is the easiest that's probably in your office is something called a printer. So all of these things are very easy to hack into. They're easy to put softwares on. Again, if you're making photocopies on a printer and I hack into it, I can make that printer send everything that you scan, copy, and print from your printer to an offsite share. United States, obviously, we use internet and consume internet more than anybody else in the world, but our attack rates, 18.2% of the world is hitting us. So average time to identify a breach, it takes my company on the average about 207 days to identify that you've had a breach. 207 days, that's more than half a year. And to get it off, the breach off of your systems, it takes another 73 days roughly to restore everything, to get everything up and running properly again, and to ensure that likely we've gotten the softwares and stuff that hackers use off of your network. It's kind of sobering numbers. There are things out there that can ensure that number drops. And companies like mine and others are investing in some of those and getting our customers to utilize them. And then another staggering figure is 70% of security executives are expecting that their budgets are going to go down in 2021. So, crime is going up and we're going to spend less on defending ourselves from that crime. So my question is, are you guys concerned? Are you worried? If you're not, are you listening? Because you should be. So I want to give you some examples. And before I go on to these next slides, I'm going to utilize what's going on in our world today. There is a hacker group out there called Anonymous. You may have read about them. Anonymous, because of what's going on in Ukraine, declared cyber war on Russia. And I tried this morning again just to see if I could get there, but realized the Kremlin's website is down, realized the Russian government website is down. It's according to Anonymous, they are the ones that have done that. Now, Anonymous in the past has hit the United States, they've hit China. They're not a group that is bound by rules or anything by any one border or any one country. So, but think about this: if Anonymous is going to go after it, and it's a dispersed organization, anybody can go after anybody at any time and probably hide where they're actually coming from. Although if they want to get paid, eventually we can trace them back to where they belong. So here's Erica will like this because that is a picture of my cat. This is an email that has been going around downtown Denver, as well as a couple other cities in our country. Essentially, it reads that, I was at the office, and I'm in building management, by the way. I was at the office over the weekend, and my daughter brought her prize cat along with her. And everybody thinks, oh gosh, what a cute kitty, but we lost the cat. The cat got in the stairwell and it's gone. Please click on the link to go see if you can help me find my kitty cat. It'll take you out to more pictures. I can tell you that IT staff click this picture more than anything. I can tell you that anybody that has a cat or an animal will click this picture more than anything. They want to see that animal. However, it's a nefarious email. What you would notice is if you went to click on the email and respond to this, and I'm not going to read that, but it's not a very nice email address where it's coming from, but it's coming from a Russian hacker from mail.ru, which is actually a Russian email server. But you click on that and you can correspond with that person and they can say, yeah, I'm Scott. How do you know? Well, I'm Scott. Again, you have no clue if you're just corresponding to somebody via email and you're not paying attention. What I would suggest is, again, if you've got an email that you think is nefarious, you think by hovering over some of the places, it looks like it's going to take you somewhere else. Well, we have something called a telephone. I would very much encourage you to pick that telephone up and call the person where they're saying it's coming from. Because I can guarantee if you call building management at the phone number, which happens to be my office below, you're actually going to get to talk to me and I'm going to look at you. I'm going to tell you over the phone. I'm going to say, hey, Erica, I ain't got a clue what you're talking about because I never send an email like that. But if you start clicking back and forth and replying to people, yeah, they can portray that they're me all the time and you'll never know. So again, when I click reply, notice that it went to a different email address. It did not come to me. And then one of the things we can do, and I know those of you that are working with PHI or have compliances, you know, whether it's HIPAA, FERPA, PCI, any of the SOC compliances, anything like that, please realize that if you're utilizing Office 365 of any flavor, any version, if you put pound, secure pound in the subject line, it automatically encrypts that email so that if any data inside that email is maybe going to diverge a social security number or anything like that, it will encrypt that email so that only the intended recipient can get in and look at that email. Also, email can be programmed to look at words. So anything like the word password, social security number, bank account number, whoops, any of that kind of stuff, we can program the Microsoft Cloud and Office 365 to automatically encrypt for those things. And the latest step that we are taking is we can even send an email back to you and or your administrator on site that says, Erica just sent an email that may have had something to do with beneficiary security number and could have divulged this information. Please discuss with Erica before hitting the OK button here, because then by hitting the OK button, it will actually send that email out. So we can start holding email if it's looking like we're going to divulge something that's important and can break some compliancy stuff. So what's happening in the government and the states and in legislation? Notice the word reasonable safeguards in there. And I'm sure Erica and Elizabeth could tell you that the word reasonable could be discussed by attorneys and can be fought on either side. Was it reasonable enough that they did this or not reasonable enough? However, what we're seeing is the National Cybersecurity Alliance, they're surveying people. They're starting to talk to people about NIST, which is a governing body, and saying, okay, well, you know, what's happening? What's reasonable? You know, 54% of businesses requiring employees to report suspicious emails when they get them. My question for you is why don't you tell your staff that they have to report that email to you every time they think it's suspicious? Or if they've got if you've got a provider like us, why don't you have them call us every time that they think that email is suspicious? Anyway, we're talking about training as well as we're talking about security. Your data is more important than the 5 minutes or so that they're going to waste on the phone making sure that email is good. Most businesses right now are requiring less than 5 hours a year when it comes to security training. What I'm going to tell you and show you later is the state of Colorado and many states like us are going to tell you that's not enough. 60% of new employees are given their computer. They're allowed to get on the internet, on the network, and start working before we ever train them and before we ever talk to them about security. Kind of scary. This study that the National Cybersecurity Alliance did, 25 of those, roughly a little over 1,000 businesses, filed for bankruptcy last year. And out of that 25%, 10% of them have failed. Staggering numbers, but it's expensive to go through a breach, and it's more expensive to lose our businesses. So the Federal Trade Commission is measuring that word reasonableness against national the cybersecurity framework or NIST framework. It's pretty stringent. It's also causing businesses like myself to start having to go to governing bodies like DORA to make sure that our staff and prove that our staff are reliable and trained properly. So I'm gonna read this to you word for word, because this is the NIST framework that everything's being measured against right now. An effective security awareness program should not just be a canned once-a-year training video coupled with regular phishing testing. So if you're not aware, phishing testing is something where I can send out nefarious emails that do nothing except say, haha, we gotcha, and give us reports. While annual training is needed, there should be a more frequent topical message and notification about security. I'm hoping that you go back Monday and say, the Russians have attacked Ukraine and everybody's worried about security. Watch your email. It's that bad, and it's that much of a problem, and likely we're going to be hit because we're giving the Ukrainians weapons. So, please, please, please talk to people about it. So this might include messages about strong password usage that coincides with a media report of a password dump. Think about some of the breaches we've seen in the past. Some of those passwords were actually the word password. The rise of phishing during tax time or increased awareness of malicious package delivery emails during the holidays. Again, please talk about this all the time. Hey, I got an email that looked like it came from Amazon, and that Amazon email asked me to go download this form and fill out this form and send it back to them, and it had my bank account information on that form. Hey, Amazon doesn't do that. Or hey, I got an email from the IRS and they're wanting me to verify and confirm my tax information for last year because they said they can't find it. Guess what? The IRS won't email you. The IRS is going to send you a letter in the mail and get in touch with you that way. And again, these companies, they don't make phone calls to people. They send letters to people. So please talk about this all the time. We're being required to do it, and we're being forced to do it by our states. And what I'm talking about at the state level is, reasonable cybersecurity requirements. If you do business in any one of these states, if you're sitting in Colorado, obviously you do. If you have clients though that in any of those states, please, please, please get with somebody like myself. Get with somebody in one of those states that's maybe an attorney or somebody in the legislative branch that does things like what DORA does and checks on companies. Make sure that you understand the laws and the legalities of doing business in another state as well as in our own. In Colorado, that's called CRS 18.5.701, and I'm going to look at paragraph 3. Please understand that if you have a breach, you must notify people within 30 days of that breach, okay? It's not if I want to, but you must. And what they talk about here is if you misuse or have a potential to misuse of somebody's personal information, like a social security number, like an email address that had passwords in it, those kinds of things. And in Colorado, our personal information includes a social security number. It includes a student, military, or passport ID number. It includes a driver's license number. It includes an ID card number. It includes any medical information, health insurance IDs, biometric data. And then part of that is an email address. And the email address has to have something in combination with it, like a security code, an access code, a password, the security question, you know, what's your favorite dog? And you answer that, and that goes out with your email address. That's considered a breach that you must notify that person with. So I'm going to take you back to where I started, is the beginning of COVID. We pushed everybody out and worked from home. What also happened is our state started losing money. Colorado, if you notice in this graphic, is one of the states that lost the most money, likely because we rely a lot on tourism and people coming into our state to go skiing and all of that kind of fun stuff that we enjoy and we kind of take for granted on our own. So our attorney general last year came out and said, well, I know we've lost money and I can help with this, because if I go after businesses that have had a breach and I can find that business, I can make that business do things and jump through hoops, and that money comes back into the state coffers, I can help with that. What we're seeing right now is the insurance industry is one of those that is being hit hardest by this thought. I know of a number of insurance companies that are paying, they have to do things like cybersecurity awareness training for their staff for the next 10 years. They're having to invest in all sorts of tools. They're having to invest in some compliancy and auditing. They're having to do all these kinds of things that it's generating cash to come back into the state. I guess I don't blame them for doing it, but at the same time, it's like, well, why? So I'll recap here and we'll get on to some questions. So first of all, you and your business, you should be safer. You should be talking about this. You should be looking at this. You should be concerned with it. If you're like me, it maybe keeps you up at night. Just again, you should and you could be safer. You can be more secure. Our security does not come through the systems and all of the bolt-on things that we have that are there in our offices and on our networks. The security comes again by talking, discussing things with your staff, training your staff. And again, your staff needs to be more aware and better trained, whether that's emails that are coming out or whether that's events that are going on in the world, or if it's engaging with somebody like myself or attending, having your staff attend some of our webinars that are over security, and we go into more depth about what to look for and those kinds of things. Please reach out. My bad day is when I wake up and I have a phone call from a customer that says, I've got this thing on my computer and it says I have to pay money, and it's something called Bitcoin, and I kind of know what Bitcoin is, but it's talking about 3 Bitcoin, which right now is about $120,000, and I've got to pay them before they're going to unlock my files. Oh yeah, they're going to unlock your files. They're probably going to keep your files, and they're going to spread them around the internet unless you pay them more money to get it back. And we engage with companies that are out there that negotiate with these thieves and these criminals. But again, you don't want to go through that. And I know we're investing in our business. You're investing in the what if. We're talking about insurance or assurance policies. We're not talking about anything other than that, but investments. And again, this is likely a legal requirement. If you're doing business here in Colorado, it is a legal requirement. If you're not in Colorado and you're doing business with one of those other states I had listed, it is a legal requirement. But please know what that is for yourselves. So, we do have solutions for all of this. One of the things we talked about was email phishing and simulation and trials. So we can send emails out to you and your staff and really train them as to what to look at. Our systems now even include a piece that if I sent Erica an email and she failed on the 3rd attempt, though, the 3rd email that I sent out to her, I can even now stop her email from flowing before she takes remedial tests and remedial education courses. We also do what's called a ransomware simulation and trial. I can force, again, I'm sorry, Eric, I'm picking on you, I guess. I could force a ransomware simulation onto Erica's PC, and we could see how she and her staff would respond and what goes on. I'm not going to do that to her without her knowing about it, but you know, we can do those kinds of things. We can monitor the dark web or the deep web. What that looks like is logging into a system on our side, and we put your email domain in there. You know, so ours is analyticscomputers.com. I put it in there, and within about 20 minutes, it spits out every email address that's out there on the dark web. It also spits out any password that's been compromised on the dark web via that email address, and will tell me when and who was the hacker or the system where it came from. And then I would encourage you to use strong passwords. Our government right now is telling administrators of networks and systems like what we do that password should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 characters long. And it should contain all sorts of the uppercase, lowercase numbers and special characters. And they should be nowhere near anything that we're going to call a dictionary term. You know, so if I use the word strong, that's a dictionary word, and I shouldn't be using that in a password. I would encourage you, if you don't already, to actually invest in something that generates your passwords and then stores your passwords encrypted on your computer. Another piece that's important, and we've moved off of this onto this as well, but think about multi-factor or two-factor authentication. If you're using the Microsoft Office products, that is becoming a requirement that you have two-factor authentication. All it means is that you're going to get, you know, another number, and you're going to have to provide that 6-digit or 8-digit code to get it into your email once you provide your password. However, think about this: if you're using multi-factor authentication, I'm sitting at my computer as most of you are. If I log into a website on my computer and it sends an MFA token to my email, which is on the same computer, that is not multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication sends something to a text message or to an application that's on your cell phone, so that you have to actually interact with a secondary device to get that number off of it and give it back to the website that you're trying to log into. One of the things we do and we offer is monthly or quarterly security training. Again, I am doing that typically twice a month on Fridays. If you're interested, I'll shoot over contact information, that kind of stuff here in a minute, and feel free to engage with us. And then this is the team that's behind me, our sales guys and our phone number. Andrew Kotzenberger is one of my business partners. Feel free to email any one of those 4 people and say, hey, I saw Scott or I heard Scott talking, and I'm interested in getting signed up for, you know, a monthly security training. We do them, like I said, we do them all the time. I typically have anywhere from 100 to 300 people attending them. Please get your staff involved. You know, and our phone number there at the bottom, if you've got any other, you know, if you have a desire to reach out and talk to somebody or talk to myself, please feel free to do so. So at that point, you know, any questions, those kinds of things, I'm seeing some come through. I'm going to try to get through the ones that I see here on the site. So if you have any, please feel free to put them in. So for home use, and this is coming from Ron Brown, for home use, use a simple fix for personal emails to have a smarter spam filter that looks like an address or the sender and compare it against acceptable lists of senders. Can personal email be improved by the home users, such as like you've listed? A spam filter is a good first step, yes. We use something called Proofpoint, which actually lives out in the cloud. That spam filter, what it does is actually holds onto the email if it looks nefarious, and you have to go out into the cloud to actually either look at the email or release it to your home email address. What I would say is that just by having like the Microsoft Outlook spam filter turned on, that does do some of the same things, although it's not as robust. And then people always ask me, Ron, and the same thing is, well, if I click on the email and I read it and I don't interact and don't click on the links, have I breached my system? And the answer is no. But once you click on the email, once you try to send the email or try to respond to the email or click one of the links, that's the point where the crook or the threat actor, that's where they've got you. So again, in Outlook, you can look at it, you can read it. I would hugely say delete. You know, the spam filter you're talking about is good, but I would always encourage somebody to invest in something, especially for your work email, something more robust than just the Outlook spam filter. So Karen says, when you use a password manager, how do you know that they won't get hacked? What if you receive a letter or a postcard from a large corporation, blah, 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 saying that my info has been compromised? How do you know it's legitimate? Well, so first of all, Karen, a password manager, like everything else, I'm going to tell you, you want to rotate the password that you use to get into that password manager. However, if you're using a laptop that's a later version laptop, my password happens to be my index finger. So you're going to have to cut my index finger off my body and get it onto my computer before you can log in and get into my password manager. I've also moved to my phone using the same password manager, and it utilizes my face. So again, you're going to have to get my phone in front of my face to get my passwords. So we're getting to the point where biometrics, and that's my point, is we're getting to the point where biometrics are helping with that piece of it. But again, I would always, on a quarterly basis at minimum, rotate your passwords. And then again, if you get an email from Anthem, Kroger, whatever, that says you've been compromised, please, Karen, pick up the phone, call them. You know, there's no other way to really know if it's legitimate other than making that phone call. Viola asks, PC versus Mac. I'm going to tell you, Viola, there's no difference. They both get hacked because we're talking about email. We're not talking about the operating system behind it. And the only difference I'm going to tell you that's there is there are fewer Macintoshes in the world. So if I'm a hacker and somebody doing nefarious things, I'm going to program for the larger opportunity before I program for the lesser opportunity. So that's probably why you see more viruses out there for the IBM machines than you do the Mac. But the result is the same. If it gets hacked, you're going to have that same problem. So like I said, there's no, you know, your question, is there a difference between one or the other in security? No. And many Mac users also put parallels, or they do something called dual boot their Macintosh, which means they're running Windows on top of their Mac anyway. So it kind of defeats that. Ute says, if I have Mac client on my computer and it receives the same text message that go to my phone, is MFA still safe, or is it just like getting an email with the code? Ute, I would say you're still getting an email code to the same computer that you're trying to log into another system on. You know, the MFA token, somebody could be sitting at your computer and doing that for you. That was kind of my point with that. So I would still say, you know, send it to your phone and not to your computer. How do I secure my, Ellen says, how do I secure my Comcast router? Ellen, good luck. Comcast routers are notorious for not being secure. And let me give you an example here. When you put your Comcast modem on the Comcast network recognizes that modem. It knows where that modem is, and it knows who's been assigned to that modem. And whomever is on the Comcast side can log into that modem and do whatever they want to on it. You cannot secure that away from Comcast. That's the way their systems operate. So like I said, good luck. You can put something on the inside of that modem, like a firewall, or put a firewall, software firewall on your computer. That's where I would say is where you're going to secure it away from Comcast. So, you know, the modem itself, probably no. It does give you some security from other things out there, but it's not robust at all. So like I said, good luck. Sorry, I hope that didn't scare you too much. Jane, what type of password manager apps do you recommend? There's a couple of them out there. A couple of the baby ones or the easier ones to use is something called LastPass. Another one is something called RoboForm. These are both very good if you're just managing passwords. We've gone ahead and invested in something called Okta. And believe it or not, our government uses Okta as well. Many of you use multiple websites, multiple passwords, especially for your office. And I'm going to use Erica again because she's got staff. She gives everybody a login to Okta. It has what we call tiles on the page. So you're looking at a website that might have QuickBooks Online connected to it, might have, ours has our CRM tools and our PSA tools and our bank information. So if first of all, if I'm a staff member and I don't have access to one of those, I don't see that tile. However, then I can click on that tile and Okta will automatically log me in. And then I'm presented with an MFA token on my phone so that I can get past the last login piece. The Okta also allows me to control how long somebody can be logged into it before it prompts them for another password. It allows me to say if you're in the office, you don't have to be as prompted as many times as if you're home or if you're on a client site. So it's an expensive tool. So I would say that any one of those, are decent. But the more you pay, the more robust you're going to get, and more bells and whistles you're going to have at that point. Ron, similar question. Linux operating system. Macintoshes are Linux or Unix-based systems. So again, it's just fewer people utilize that flavor. So there's fewer viruses out that are written for it. Linux is more difficult in the sense of keeping it up to date and knowing those kinds of things. So, you're trading management of a system for security software that can be put on a system. And again, it's still back to the person using it and the knowledge that they have and what they're watching for. Ellen says, that's interesting. What is a firewall software? So Windows itself has a firewall built into it. There's also other softwares out there. One that we use a lot is called Zone Alarm. And so think of the physical firewall that you might have at your office. It blocks what we call ports. And there's 64 some odd thousand ports just in what we call TCP. And there's other ones that are called UDP ports and other ones. But you guys all the time interact with port 80 and port 443 in the TCP side of the world. And what that means is you guys work on websites and you interact with websites that are either HTTP or HTTPS. So that's port 80 and 443. What a firewall does is says, okay, we'll let 80 and 443 through to the PC because we have to get there. But maybe port 65 is not needed because you don't use that service, so we block it. In other words, we turn off every avenue into the network that we can so that nefarious actors can't get in via those means. And then we employ systems on the firewall and scanners on the firewall that watch the specific ports that we do allow so that we can have a better assurance that nefarious things are not going to get in. So again, a software firewall is available. The biggest one or the easiest one to use is Zone Alarm. And or the Windows firewall, you'd have to program it and know what you're doing in order to get all of that happening on its side. Ilya says, for internet Wi-Fi and internet security, would you recommend a VPN? Does that reduce intrusion risk? What I'm going to tell you, Ilya, is a VPN that goes out to your corporate office and only allows internet to flow through your corporate office, I would say yes. However, a VPN at your home is typically used to mask where you're coming from. We use VPNs all the time to portray that we're coming from, sorry, Ilya, we're going to portray that we're coming from Russia or Ukraine to make sure that the programming that we do on our company's firewalls and our clients' firewalls are blocking that traffic. So, yes, a VPN can give you some things, but it's just masking things that, again, you're back to Ilya, are you watching for every email that's coming through and being able to see all of that information that's, maybe nefarious. Barry, I'm retired with CenturyLink and MacBook. I don't use my iPhone for anything financial. I don't open email attachments from friends or family. After visiting or transacting with my IRA account, bank, a credit card transaction, medical websites, government, etc., I close the internet browser and turn off the machine. Is this protective? And is there anything else I should be doing? Barry, I'm going to tell you, you probably are going further than what you need to. Realize that anything that says HTTPS on it, that's a secure site and is creating a connection between you and that server that it's asking for. Then I would tell you that your passwords are more important than disconnecting from these kinds of things. So again, your financial password, and let me pull something up for you guys that we can see here, and I'll show you what I mean by a password. Maybe this is going to help. So everybody knows what where that comes from. In the beginning, God, and you can probably now figure out what kind of belief background I have. But if I say, and I know those are probably hard to read. Let me blow those up just so you can see here. This is an old password. So the password in itself, in the beginning, God, like I said, you can now you know what my belief system is and my background. However, the bottom way is how I had the password. It looks nothing like what it's saying, but also it's saying something to me that I understand. So when you create a password, when you use something like a password manager, the password manager does not do what I just did, which is substitute characters for letters. Password manager, and unfortunately, like if I wanted to get in and Barry, this is going to help you out. If I went to get into my first bank, it's going to do something like this. And I have no clue if this is even a password, but that's what a password manager does. It's just completely random characters and numbers and letters. So I have, and I utilize, and I forget who asked about the software. I utilize RoboForm at home and the Okta at work. My RoboForm, I have a password that I keep that's kind of like the one that I typed at the beginning. And then every one of my passwords that I use for banks and that kind of stuff are just like the bottom one. My point is if I lost access to RoboForm, I'm going to have to reset probably over 100 passwords to get in. But again, I'd rather be secure than not. So that'll kind of give you guys an idea of passwords and how we should do those. What are your thoughts on clicking on the unsubscribe link of an email? Carl, great idea. I would also go into something like Proofpoint and actually block that from coming. People are required to listen to the unsubscribe. I can't tell you that they always do. So, good idea. And I would continue to do that. I just would go block it somewhere else as well. Martha says, what if one uses only Apple Mail? I use it with 5 different email addresses, primary for work, Comcast. By the way, I do have Malwarebytes and WebRoot. Great class. Thank you for that comment too. What I would tell you, Martha, is you're the one that's got to recognize what's coming through the mail. WebRoot and Malwarebytes are great products. that's for home use. If you're doing something at the office, I would advise you to start looking at something called Sentinel-1. And a product that goes along with Sentinel-1 is called Huntress. But like WebRoot, Sentinel-1, what you're doing is you're building a castle and you're putting up drawbridges and big walls and barring the windows, that kind of stuff. Malwarebytes is good because it's going to see some of those things. We started employing Huntress this last year. So like I said, Sentinel-1 or WebRoot builds the castle. Huntress is a product that actually walks around inside the castle and continually checks and makes sure the doors are closed. And think of, if you know the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves with Kevin Costner, the way he got into the castle with some of his merry men that were going to be hung was that he smeared horse manure all over himself, and the guard said, "Ew, you stink, just go away." Sometimes WebRoot and Sentinel-1 can be tricked, oh, you stink, but just go away. But products like the Huntress product, which is a brand new product, can actually find Kevin Costner walking around stinking and keep kicking him out. So, Barry, if you open a bogus email from Amazon or the IRS, isn't your system already infiltrated or compromised? Not if you just read it in your email client. But so don't open the attachment, don't click on any of the links, click the delete button, and you're fine. If you start opening and interacting with that email, then yes, then you're going to have a chance to compromise your system. Viola, security differences between PC and Mac. I think we covered that, but really no difference. Erica, are things like 1Password safe for use of my home account? Yes, I would definitely use a password vault. Barry, I hope this helped you with the strong password stuff. What I would do is, first of all, make sure that you're using at least 12 characters. What we've found is the 8 characters that most systems were using in the early 2000s is just not enough anymore. And then, alternate, change letters, change numbers, make it so that you really can't recognize what that password says. Martha, how safe is Secure Safe from Switzerland? I've never used it, so I couldn't comment on that. The Okta product itself is from Hungary. So, our government uses things from other countries. Believe it or not, some of those are some of the best programmed things out there. So, Carl, unsubscribe link, I think we talked about that. Let's see if there's any more here on the other side. Keychain on Mac OS effective. All you're doing is storing your password. It's not difficult to break into Keychain. So if I were able to gain access to your Mac, I could probably get into Keychain. So it's okay. I'll leave it at that. I hope that answers your question. I think that's all the questions. Have I got them all? Anybody else have any other ones?
Scott, I see one on here. Can you, maybe you did this, I don't think I missed it. Can you recommend good antivirus malware program for my personal laptop?
So personal, I would say WebRoot or Trend Antivirus. Those
Trend?
are 2 very good ones.
Was that Trend?
Yeah, Trend. Trend is more expensive than WebRoot. It doesn't make it better. I would stay away from the Norton products. I'm sorry, they aren't that good. Kaspersky is great. Yes, he's a Russian owner, but that's a great product. And the reason Kaspersky started doing what he was doing was to mess with the Russians. So, and one of their own people doing that to them. But other ones, Malwarebytes is okay. There's some other free ones that you can get online that are okay. I would say, as long as you've got something, you are part of the way there. And again, even the tools we utilize for like Ambler Keen, and we're trying to get you 80 to 90% of the way there, realizing that it's who is interacting with the email and interacting with the computer that's the biggest, biggest risk on the computer. So again, training, making sure that you're aware of what's going on is just as important, and maybe more so than the antivirus software that you have on the computer. And I can tell you that I've run computers without antivirus for months without putting antivirus on it, and I've never had a problem. But then again, I watch everything that I do too. So, hopefully that answers that question. Any other ones? I hope I scared you guys. I want you to be secure, so if you, and feel free, we're not going to charge you for a consultation to call and talk to my team or myself. But feel free to contact us and ask more questions. And, if you decide you want to interact with us on a bigger basis, I'm sure Eric and Beth can tell you what we've done for them, and hopefully they'll give us a good recommendation. I don't think they'd have me on if they wouldn't. So.
Correct.
Thanks so much, Scott. And
of course.
Thanks to everybody for attending. And I know that Scott was focused today on a lot of business owners, but it all applies as you're at home too, doing your personal stuff. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I would say from today is that it's really about human error, right? We all maybe get nervous and click on stuff or think that the IRS is coming for us, or you get that message from a distant cousin on Facebook Messenger saying that the government's giving away free money and click here. It's all about just being very cautious with our interactions, and then at the same time having the right security on your home computers and password managers, and making sure your passwords are secure. I think that's the biggest thing that everybody should take away from today. And I'm probably just like you, when Scott starts talking about port 44 and other things, I don't exactly know what he's talking about. But that's why we have people like Scott to help us.
Yeah, and if I can, Elizabeth, what I would tell you guys, if something is out of the ordinary, if it doesn't seem right, if it seems like it's too good to be true, guess what? It is too good to be true. It is out of the ordinary. It is not right. Be cautious.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you so much, Scott, for your time today. And thank you to everybody for joining us on a Saturday morning. And I hope everybody can go enjoy the rest of their weekend, even though we are supposed to get some snow. But just, remember that it was nice this week, and we'll get through the snow and through all of this other stuff too.
Thanks everybody for attending.
Yeah, thank you to everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And Scott,
Thanks,
I appreciate your time. Thank you for the very informative talk.
Of course, of course.